Hello, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge and welcome to the crazy hot mess that is my life. So, couple things. My wonderful followers will know that I was on vacation this weekend, so I'm recording this when I've just returned home. The sun is in the exact wrong place, my apartment is hot as Satan's balls, and I'm a little bit just flummoxed. But I'm so excited to talk about some of the books that I read this week. And like, this is the time to film, so this is what we're working with. So I apologize for the sound. That is my air conditioner, but it's literally 92 degrees outside and it's 81 degrees in my apartment. So, you know, I have this rosy glow. I wish I could say it was purposeful, but it's just what it's like when we're going through a heat wave. Also, because the light's in a weird place, I'm using my ring light, which isn't the natural look that I like to go with, but we're doing it. So that's what's happening, and it's wonderful, it's beautiful, it's fine, it's fantastic. One other thing I want to mention before I get into the books that I read this week, which I did read 13 books, which is good. That's about my normal average in a week. Lately it's been a little bit higher because things at work have been winding down. But I did put something new in my link tree, which my link tree, in case you don't know, is what it sounds like. It's a place that a creator can put all their links. But I started something called a book recommendation form, which is exactly what it sounds like. So going forward, if there's a book that you would really like for me to get into my rotation, to be a book that would be possible that I would read, you can go ahead and submit that through the form in my link tree, which is down below. This doesn't mean I won't ever ask for recommendations in a different way. We'll still do our monthly buddy reads where you can recommend a book to get picked that way. But there are some of them that I would pick up anyway. So something that I'm going to do, and which I've already started, which we'll see when we get to the books that I read this week, is that all the books you recommend, I have them in a spreadsheet. So you enter them into the form, which is why it's really important for you to follow the rules for the form, okay? I know everyone's really excited, but particularly one person put 5 books in one form, and I had to delete that because it literally fucks everything up if you do one book with one author, not a trilogy, not a series title, pick one book, because you can enter multiples. I'm not limiting this. I had one person, they entered 30 recommendations for me, which is great. They're getting put into the thing. I mean, maybe please don't swamp me with them right away, but fill out the form, one book, one author, and you'll tell me what the tropes are in it, just so that I have an idea, and then you'll be able to enter it, and you can enter as many as you want. And what I do is I take this spreadsheet, which is why it's important that there's one book per entry. Okay, I'm going to say that again because I had a lot of people not doing it. One book per entry. Make sure it's romance. Please make sure there's some level of smut, and please make sure the book is already out. I also had someone who entered all the books for the rest of the year that they want me to read, which that's great, that's wonderful. But I'm doing a random number generator to choose the book. And if I pick your book and the book isn't out yet, well, then I'm deleting it from it and I'll start again, okay? So please don't enter a book that isn't out yet, and please make sure it's romance and it's a little bit smutty. I'm just saying, I don't want to read boring contemporaries with no smut. I'm sorry, that's harsh, but this is my life. I still retain veto power because it's my life. But if there are books you want to bring to my attention sooner, because I'm telling you, I'm already reading some of them and it's going great, please use this book recommendation form, because it's a place where I can put all of my recommendations from you guys in one place. And I know it's about making it easier for me, but it's also about if you want me to get to your book, if you want me to see it as more than a passing comment on my Instagram or my YouTube, using this form will be great for both of us, okay? So again, the link will be down below. Look for my link tree. I'll have it near the top, and we'll go with that, okay? All right, that's enough time on this because I have some books we really have to gush about. So here we go. The first book that I read last week was The Devil in Disguise by Lisa Kleypas. This book doesn't even come out till Tuesday, but because it's an Avon traditional published, if you don't know this, here's a secret for you guys too. If there's a traditionally published book, particularly by Avon or Berkeley, oftentimes Barnes & Noble they have these different kind of release dates. They have a hard release date for books, let's say like the newest Brandon Sanderson or Sarah J. Maas or something like that. If J.K. Rowling were ever to put out another book, those books have a hard release date where they are not allowed to put it out early. Books like this, as soon as they get sent to them, they can technically put them on the shelves. So a lot of Barnes & Nobles were already putting this out. They start to move things around, they put them out. So this book, as well as like 3 others that come out on the 27th, were already out on the shelves. So anyway, point being said, I got to read this. I don't want to talk too much about it. This is the Rake Appreciation Society book for August. So Crystal and I, we will have a full live show where we talk all the spoilers for this. Needless to say, if some of you guys were following me on Instagram, I gave this 6 stars. It may have my favorite Kleypas hero. In fact, I'm pretty sure. This may be my favorite Kleypas heroine. And it is probably my favorite Kleypas book. Okay, I was telling people it was making me feel feelings not far away from, again, the magic. And not because the stories are alike really in any way, but because those big, beautiful emotions that it made me feel. This was a fucking fairy tale in the best way. I was weeping. I took so many notes for the live show, you don't even know. Like, I've taken so many notes. I never take notes the first time I read a book. I plan to, when this comes out on Tuesday, I'm gonna get the audiobook. I'm gonna re-listen to it. This has a Scottish hero in it. I'm very excited. I don't want to spoil this for you, so based on what the back says only, this is about Lady Merritt Sterling, who this is the daughter of Lillian and Marcus, and she is a widow, still a young widow, and she's been running her dead husband's shipping business, okay? And then our hero, Care McCrae, he is having some issues with a shipment that he's using her shipping company for, and that is how they meet. And I don't even want to tell you the tropes that it is, because I want you to read this. If you're a Kleypas fan like me, you will. But even if you're not, this book is most satisfying if you will have read the Wallflower series. I will say that. Even though this says that it's Ravenel number 7, I highly suspect that the reason this is Ravenel's number 7, or the Ravenels meet the Wallflowers, is for a marketing purpose. Okay, this is 2nd generation Wallflowers. There's not much besides a passing glimpse at Ravenels. Like, there's not much to do with the Ravenels. This is all about the children of the Wallflowers. And just like, that's the people that we're seeing in here, right? And it was fucking brilliant. But I would even say, even without the history of that, I hate saying this, but I want you to read it so much. I feel like you could read this on its own. I don't recommend that, because a lot of the things that were satisfying are because I have read the Wallflowers, the Ravenels, the Hatlets, because I've read those. But even on its own, the romance that this couple has was so beautiful. So this is a 6-star read. This is one of my 6-star alerts that I put on my Instagram, and I fucking loved it. Then I finished The Raven Prince by Elizabeth Hoyt. I listened to this on audiobook. I had bought it when audio had a sale. This is the first book in the Prince trilogy by Elizabeth Hoyt, and I can definitely tell this is some of her older works for me, okay? This one is about a widow named Anna Wren, and she needs a job. She needs a job. She is a widow, and she lives with her dead husband's mother. She loves her. It's beautiful. They call her Mother Wren. And she ends up getting a job as the secretary for the Earl of Swardingham. Okay? And he's a bit of a beast. His name is Edward, and he doesn't want to have a female secretary, but it kind of is like a trick how she becomes the secretary, and she's good at what she does. And it's beautiful. Trigger warning in this for death of a child. I don't want to tell you, but there's the death of a child in here, a stillborn situation. And I think that's it. But yeah, this was not my favorite. I think for a lot of my friends who love this one, and not that there's anything wrong with it, it's still Elizabeth Hoyt, it's still pretty sexy, it's delightful, but having read The Maiden Lane and read The Legend of the Four Soldiers, I can tell that this is a prior work, if that makes sense. So I gave this one 4 stars. I will still read the other 2 in the trilogy. I'll pretty much read anything Elizabeth Hoyt puts on the page, because even though it wasn't my favorite, it was still great. So I gave this book 4 stars. Then I read Burn It Down by J. Wolfe. This was an ARC. This book comes out on the 29th, I believe. I actually reached out to Julia to get on her ARC team because I loved Start a Fire. I didn't completely love Through the Ashes, but I was very excited to read Gabe and Penelope's story. This is a plus-size heroine. This is kind of a bully situation. So the thing that I would say, this is in a trilogy that's kind of like bully, high school bully, but this was the one that was the least bully-like for me. It's more of a second chance situation. Like, they fooled around and were together during the summer, like either of like before freshman year or like after freshman year, I don't know. And for reasons, our hero broke up with her in kind of a humiliating fashion to save her from being with him, because he's got a lot of baggage, okay? Now it's their senior year and he needs a tutor, and so he uses some information he has about her to force her to be his tutor. So it's more of a like forced proximity and manipulation than him being a bully. Although he, you know, he did humiliate her that one time. It's not like he's an ongoing bully who's picking on her. He's just kind of forcing her to be around him. I really enjoyed this. I loved how strong Penelope was. I loved Gabe. I really did. There were some parts of him where I'm like, okay, why are you being a douche? Because he's not a bully, but he's still kind of an asshole. But I did like his grovel and how it worked out. So I gave this arc 4.5 stars. And again, this book comes out soon. Then I read a couple monster romances, because after reading Devil in Disguise and reading that other arc, Burn It Down, I just wanted to cleanse my palate. And so really weird stories help me do that, okay? So I read Stalked by the Kraken by Lillian Lark. Lillian Lark is an author that I follow on TikTok, and I really enjoy her recommendations, and she writes monster romance. I read an MMF that she did earlier this month, I think. So this one is a witch and a kraken, okay? And now this kraken has a human form. He can partially shift, he can wholly shift, but like kraken are this like long living, nobody knows their origin story type of creature. And our witch, she actually works at like a matchmaking company, and the people pay them with like energy that comes from their unions, basically. So it's kind of a matchmaking, kind of a brothel, kind of a thing. And so the Kraken, he asks to be matched with her in exchange that he gives off a lot of energy because of him being a long-living being. And she also needs a little bit of a morale boost, okay? Because as a matchmaker, her power is like she can see who the best potential match for someone. And she just got out of a relationship where she found her on paper perfect match, and he broke her heart like horribly. And so this Kraken, who's been stalking her, granted by the name, he finally makes his move and he says, I want to be matched with you. And she's like, okay, I agree to this many dates. And he's like, cool, as long as you allow for the fact that I will be wooing you during these dates, because she's his mate and he's able to know that. So this was pretty delightful. I gave it 4 stars. The tentacles are fun. Yeah, it was just really sweet, actually. I really like the Kraken. He was very possessive, a little bit of an alpha still, which funnily enough doesn't always happen with monster romances. There's something I talked with my friends, that the more hideous and gross a monster is, the sweeter they are. It's like the hot girl matrix, if you've ever heard of that. But like with monsters, it's like the more gross they look, the sweeter they are. But he was pretty alpha, and I liked it a lot. So I gave this 4 stars. Then, continuing with this monster bent, I did it. I read Ensnared by Tiffany Robert. So this is a husband and wife duo, Tiffany and Robert, which is kind of cool. They write a Kraken series as well. I think they have some alien romances too. And this one is an alien romance. This is the Arachnoid, and he is fully arachnoid. He has like human torso, but like his face isn't. He's got like 2 sets of arms and like 6 legs. And guys, I don't know what happened here, but as I said, the creepier something looks, the sweeter that they are. So our hero, Khan, is it Khan? I don't know what the name is, but this is an alien planet, and a human pod, like ship has crashed there, and he ends up stumbling into it. It reminded me a little bit of like Ice Planet Barbarians for that, except the people on it were going to a new planet to live, basically, and things had not gone well in her life, so she decided she was gonna go to the stars and go to a new planet, and she crash landed here. What I loved about this book is it was a very slow burn, and warning, this is not a complete story. This is going to be a trilogy, so this is a very slow burn. There's communication barrier where they are learning each other's language. And yeah, it's a very slow thing. This is not going to be everyone's cup of tea. It's not even fully my cup of tea. But again, I wanted to clear my palette of everything I'd been reading, and this was a great way to do it. And I gave this 4 stars, okay? And I definitely want to read the next 2 books. I do. There was a cliffhanger that I was like, no! And the next one isn't out until like December. So there's that. Then I read Misadventures with a Professor by Simone. I am reading the 3 books by Simone that are in the Misadventures series. So I read Misadventures in Blue last week, and I read this one. And this one is what it says. So we have Amanda Lynch, who goes by Zandy, and she is going to be staying with a friend of her father's who is a professor and be his assistant or / librarian while he's working on a paper. And she moves to London a little bit early so that she can have a fling with someone, because she's still a virgin and she wants to get her cherry popped, and so she's gonna do that. Well, she ends up hooking up with the professor. She's in her early 20s, by the way, like she has her degree and everything, and her father is also a researcher and stuff, so it was just natural for her to do this job. And she then, because she's going to be staying at his house with him and using his library and things to do it, and then it turns out that it's him. So this, and he has a lot of self-hate because he is into kink play and BDSM, and his previous partner really shamed him for that. Okay, so this is short and sweet. I listened to this. These ones are on AnyPlay. There is a trigger warning for, well, I don't know. This involves a surprise pregnancy, but there's also trigger warning for, like, there was a previous surprise pregnancy that didn't end well. So just know that. But I had a good time. I had a good time with this book. So I gave this 4 stars. Yes, I did. Okay, so then I read Until Tomorrow Comes by Adelaide Forrest. Okay, so y'all know I've binged the Belladonni series, all the books that are out, and the Beauty and Lies series, which has 4 books in it, is a spin-off, and it's about a guy named Rafe. And in the Belladonni series, he sees this woman, a girl, she's only 16 at the time, she's about to turn 17, and he becomes obsessed with her. Now, the Belladonni men, they are working with him to, you know, mafia reasons. But he is actually like the kingpin in Spain, in an area in Spain. And so he's in America helping. And so he sees her and he wants her. And the guys are like, you can't take a kid. Like, you can't. And he's like, would you guys have let anything stop you with your women? Which is a good point, because all of our men in the Belladonni series have just taken the women that they wanted. That is what happens. And they're like, you can't take a kid. We won't let you. You need to wait. So our hero, he sets things in motion. He puts people in her life that are watching them for him, and he waits until she's 18, and then he finds a way to get her. is what I'm saying. So this first one is about his plan being enacted, where he finally, so there's actually, when you get the first book, if you get it on KU, there's a novella first that you have to read that is about that year and a half where he is like having her watched, and he's watching her and preparing for her to be old enough. And then the first full book, Until Tomorrow Comes, is him inserting himself into her life, trying to woo her, romance her, and it's basically an age gap fling where she agrees to have a fling for him for a week. And I really love this first one, okay? I did give this 5 stars. We will talk more about the series in a little bit, but I thought this first one was great, and I gave it 5 stars. Then I read Rogue by CD Reiss, which is also called Spin, which is also called a bunch of different things. I like CD Reiss, but one thing I'll say, her rebranding of her books every couple years is fucking annoying, okay? Not that she would ever see this video, but like, seriously, she's rebranded the same series so many times. This happened with the Submissive series too, when I was trying to read the Submission series, and it's part of the reason why at the time I didn't read more of her books. But I had this one on audio, and I had bought it when it was free, so I got it when it was free, and I wanted to lean it. This is the beginning of like a mafia trilogy, so it's one of the siblings, because a lot of her books are all about like siblings in the same family, and a guy named, I literally can't remember his name, but his nickname is Spin. And it was okay. I did give it 4 stars. It was pretty sexy, but I don't know if I want to read more. Like, I just don't know. I don't know. We'll see. Because it's just so much and convoluted, and it's one where like she splits books up that should just be one book, and honestly I don't know if it's worth the trouble for me. I'm just saying. So, but I did give it 4 stars. Then, okay guys, this is me telling you to go give a book a bunch of love, okay? This book just came out yesterday, or today, the 25th. I think it's today. I need to do a post about it on my Instagram. But again, hot mess express today. This book is called The Devil and I, and it is by Kay Alastor, who is actually, I feel weird saying this, but she's a fan of mine, and she wrote this book. And it's about novella length, and I'll tell you what it's about. But she reached out to me and asked me to read it, and I don't always say yes to that because it's a lot of pressure to do that, and sometimes you have a lot. But I was waiting for a certain book to come out, which we'll get to next, and I said yes, I would love to read it. And so this book is just released, and it's called The Devil and I, and it is so good. I gave it 4 stars. But I'll tell you why I gave it 4 stars in a second. Because it is so good, and it shows so much promise. And I can't wait to see what else she writes. Like, I just got so excited. But if we want this author to write more books, we need to support this one, okay? So we're going to do it. She said the next series is going to be Mafia, but she wanted to test things out. So this book, The Devil and I, it has some heavy trigger warnings in the first chapter, okay? So we have our heroine, and she is trying to kill herself, okay? Again, heavy trigger warning in the beginning. She goes into the woods and she slits her wrist. Our hero is a vigilante police officer. He kills people that get away from justice. He's a serial killer, okay? He's killed pedophiles. He's killed murderers who've gotten away with it. He's killed rapists. And that's what he does. And he's a bit of a psychopath, okay? But he's like a vigilante one. And he's about to have a 2-week vacation. And so he's going for a run. And he finds this girl as she has slit her wrist, okay? And he's like so entranced by her. This is also a plus-size heroine. And he doesn't understand like what would cause this beautiful creature to end her life. And so he saves her, but he doesn't want to give her up. And he knows if he brings her to the hospital, he'll lose her. She'll have to go into a psych hold. He might never see her again. So he makes a decision. If she was going to kill herself, she probably left a suicide note. No one's going to be looking for her. I'm going to take her. So this guy, he takes her to his cabin where he stays and like plans his murders, and he heals her. And it's a novella length, so stuff happens very quickly. Like, he is immediately obsessed with her. He's immediately in it for her, but he if you love caretaking, oh my God, does he just wrap her up and heal her and feed her and shower her with affection. And this girl who is ready to kill herself because of something someone did to her. So that's the other part of this, is that he gets to be her vigilante justice and take out this person who did something to her. And so if you like vengeance, if you like this was a serial killer fairy tale. I don't know what else to tell you. And I loved it. I ate it up. I wish it was more, but I loved it. So now why it was 4 stars. So the big reason is a little bit of the writing style and some of the choices. The dialogue was a little bit clunky, okay? I said this in my review. But it overall, like, the content and the characters and the story of this were so good. And I just know that this author is going to be writing some amazing books if this is their first attempt, okay? So this is me. This is my ramp up the book Refuge, people. If you like the darker stuff, the twisty stuff, this book is out now. Go get it. Go support this author. The story was great. I just want to tell you, like, it isn't perfect. You know, there's work to be done, but the story and the characters and this hero was so swoony. It was wonderful. So I gave it 4 stars, but this author has the potential to knock our socks off, okay? All right. Then I got to read The Spy. I got to read the arc of The Spy, and I'm not going to talk about it. You can go see my review on Goodreads if you want, which is completely non-spoiler. I call The Spy The Spy. We don't say the name. But I gave this 6 stars. I can't wait to talk about it. Sophie Lark will be on my channel in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, and we will have spoiler discussion. So the whole thing won't be spoiler, but if you haven't read the Kingmaker series yet, you need to. This book comes out on the 29th, and you are going to want to be a part of the party. I promise you, you will. Because what I will say for this is there was a lot of threads left open. There was a lot of story points and things that didn't make sense and that I was afraid of how it would play out. And she did it. She did it. I was completely satisfied. And she wrapped up not only this story and the story of the spy, but a lot of stuff that happened beforehand, okay? So read those books and join us for the live show, because I have some questions for this woman. And it was wonderful. Then I read Follow by Tessa Bailey. I had this because I have a signed copy of this book. I got it from a book box, I think, or I ordered it from, there was a sale of like signed books. And I like Tessa Bailey, so I wanted this. I wasn't a huge fan of this one. This woman, what's her name? Teresa, her brother is in some trouble with a businessman. And this businessman, to save her brother, she has to go and trick this guy named Will into coming back to New York so that his father, who is the bad guy, can take care of him or something like that. And so she ends up stumbling into him, and they end up in a sexual relationship. He has a dog. His dog is great. And it was a lot. But it just didn't make sense. It didn't work. I gave this 3.5 stars. It was not my favorite thing. Then I read Silver Silence by Nalini Singh. There's my ring light. You can see it. I listened to the first half of this on my trip to Duluth. It was great to be back in this world. This one is bears. This is bear shifters and a sigh. And I have decided that I belong with the bear shifters. I was a bear shifter in another life. I know it. They give hugs and touch, and I just love all the things so much. However, the heroine was a bit tough, even more so than the other side that I've read before. So this one ended up being a 4-star for me. Then I read Her Soul to Take. So this is where I said I already started reading some of the books that were put into my book rec form. This is one that was in it. I actually did a buddy read with this one with Sam from Sam Reads a Little, Jess from Peace Love Books, and Tori from Novel Life. It was actually Tori's idea. And I was a bit nervous to read this one based on this cover and based on the opulent trigger warnings that she puts in the front, which all happen in the book. Like, all the trigger warnings do happen. However, this book had this amazing charisma. The hero is a demon. The heroine is a YouTuber who vlogs haunted houses, and she accidentally summons this demon. And it happens to be someone that she's met before, so she thinks that he's pulling her leg, and she doesn't realize that she actually summoned a demon. There's BDSM in here. There is consent for everything. There is no CNC happening. It is sexy as hell. But again, there is a lot of trigger warnings. However, I told them over and over again, which I was surprised. None of these wonderful ladies have watched a damn episode of Buffy. If you have watched Buffy, you are going to have serious vibes for Buffy in this book. Like, not necessarily Buffy the character, but like the Scooby Squad, or when you like just that kind of sarcastic but yet still serious dark stuff. But yet our hero was so, like, he reminded me of Spike sometimes, but not in like the chaotic evil way, but like the sarcasm about things. So I freaking loved it, and I gave this 5 stars, and I loved it. And then the last book I want to talk about, I said we'd bring this back around. I finished Until Forever Ends by Adelaide Forrest. So this is the second book in the series that I mentioned earlier. And this book went across the line for me quite a bit, guys. Quite a bit, and I wasn't expecting it. So something happens at the end of the first one to cause our hero to become pretty angry, okay? Now our heroine has just turned 18. She's a baby. I don't mind age gaps. I don't mind kidnapping. I don't mind a little bit of CNC, okay? I really don't. I don't even mind a little bit of dubcon. This hero brands the heroine, forcibly tattoos the heroine, takes her off birth control, puts her on fertility drugs, forcibly tries to impregnate her every chance that he can get, forces her to marry him with a gun to her head, threatens her family and friends if she won't do what he wants, and then doesn't understand why she still wants to leave, why she doesn't believe this is love. I just don't get it. I don't get it with this one, okay? I loved how the Belladonni men were. And they did some of the thing. Like, there is, in one of the Belladonni books, there is, like, a forced pregnancy in a way. I know that's weird to explain. Like, that happens in a way of, like, unprotected sex without asking. But not in the way that it's happening in this one. And it just felt inherently wrong to me. And again, I'm not judging anyone who likes it. This is a kink-safe zone. This is a judgment-free zone. But there's this thing that happens with me, and I've talked about this before, and it's just kind of how I find my line. I need a hero, he can push things really far, right? Like, I have my Carter Mahoney line. I have my Matteo Morelli line. Like, you can push me really far. But 2 things happen to me. 2 things happen. Number 1, the hero crosses so far over a line that he loses redeemability, okay? He loses that opportunity. And sure, that's a fine line to walk. You know, what is that line? And it's different for every reader, right? It's different for every reader where that redeemability line is, which is completely okay. And then there's also just when I get this like angstiness in me, and I can't explain that, but when I'm reading a hero doing something and I start like crying angry tears. So angry tears are something that I've talked about them before. They happen sometimes to me. And this one did that. The hero, when he put a gun to her head to make her marry him, this child, okay? And that's another thing. When I start thinking of the heroine, no matter how big an age gap is, when I start thinking of the heroine as a child, it's too much. Because all I could see was this scared girl who'd been kidnapped, who had been tattooed and branded and taken from her family, and all these things were a lie. He'd been stalking, she finds out he's been stalking her all this time. And then he was upset that she tried to leave. When they punish you for something that's your natural reaction, this was nothing short of an abuse. Like, it was no longer kinky fun. It was no longer just we're having a fucked up game. She was being abused. And all I can see is a future of her having her choices taken away and being abused for the rest of time. That's all that I could see. And I'm not done with Adelaide Forrest. I'm still going to read her other series. And I kind of want to see where this one goes, because I want the hero to be broken into fucking pieces. Because that's something that I like as well, is if someone has went that far, I want to see them just fucking destroyed, so that they realize what they did to the heroine. Like, that happened to me in, like, Tears of Tess. Like, that hero got fucking destroyed and realized what he did, you know? That can happen. So, I don't want to say I'm done, but I skimmed the last, like, 20% of the book, and I was like, this is not for me. This is where my line is. And my line is much further out than a lot of people's, and it's much closer in than a lot of people's, you know? But this one was one for me that I hate Rafe. I hate him. And when I cross over into hate, and then the heroine, who some people in the reviews were like, I love Rafe, but the heroine, Issa, just let him walk all over her. And I was like, what else is she supposed to do? Every time she fights back, he abuses her. He uses her body against her, because seriously, like, sexual manipulation is the first thing he jumps to, which I don't always mind it. But she would immediately give in to the orgasm, and then he would think, oh, I fixed it because I made her come, so I fixed it. He would never apologize for what he did, ever. And then she wants to learn to protect herself, and he is gonna kill the person who's teaching her defense. And she's like, well, what if something happens? I mean, he's like, nothing's gonna happen to you. Adelaide Forrest, woman. We've literally seen people be hurt in all the other books. So how dare you have the hero say, oh, nothing's gonna happen to you. So I got ragey. I got really ragey, and I don't know if I'll complete this series. And this book has a really high rating. It's fine. There's 2 more books in the series. But I hate the hero now. And the heroine, she's a broken shell at this point. So I don't really root for her either. So I'm at this place where I like this author, but I don't trust her with these particular characters anymore. Like, I still want to read more in the Belladonna series. I would still read other stuff she has written. But I no longer trust her with this couple that I will enjoy it. And so that's when I tap out. And I rated this 3 stars, but it's honestly a 2-star book for me. I just couldn't quite give it 2, but that's where I'm at. So sorry to end the week on a downer. I am in the middle of some other great books. I am in the middle of Ruth's Night, which was another book from the Book Rec Forum, and I'm enjoying that one a lot. So I'll wrap this up. Thank you for putting up with the air conditioner. If you made it all the way through, give me a thumbs up. That means so much. Make sure to subscribe for more videos. I put up 3 to 4 a week. I'm about to film a book haul. That'll be another video going up this week. And yeah, thank you so much for your love and support. It means so much to me, and have a wonderful day. Bye.